Hi folks, this is Taviasobi, and today I'll be going over 13 tips to get you started in Sandland on the right foot. Yep, lucky number 13. I'm feeling good about this already. Now let's get started. Tip number 1, pick up everything. Yeah, so resources are a big part of Sandland, and it's basically what allows you to create new gear and level up your existing gear as well. Some side quests also require you to deliver a certain amount of materials. So by mining every node you see and picking up mats from monsters and enemies, you can pre-farm a lot of stuff so you don't have to go out there and waste your time searching for materials when you need to do them later. Tip number 2, go everywhere. While some places will be inaccessible to you until you acquire certain vehicles or gear, you'll actually be surprised at how many places in Sandland's open world that you can actually get to early in the game. By exploring around instead of just going to the next story quest point right away, you can get certain materials and gear early, and also enjoy the story more fully as you can read all the early NPC dialogue at various towns before they permanently change after certain key events in the game. Yeah, I've go to some towns and they're like talking to me like I've been there before, even though it's my first time, and that's because I skipped going to them before like a key event in the game. So it's like I missed half of the story or something, at least in the beginning. By the way, this tip also applies to dungeons, which like to hide treasure chests and gear behind nooks and corners. So when you see a destination marker on your map when you're exploring a dungeon, like one of the giant ships, for example, try to go to the opposite way first and check to see if there are any hidden rooms or chests. I've actually found a lot of neat gear this way. Tip number 3, recruit people. So at a certain point in the game, you will reach the dying town of Spino. Once you do, you will gain the ability to recruit certain people to move into the town. Now while this is optional, I highly recommend doing it. Not only does it bring life back to Spino, some of the folks you recruit will also open new shops and services in the city, which include a blacksmith who can craft materials for making gear, as well as a merchant that sells EX chips to power up your machines. The good news is that it's hard to miss these folks, because the ones that you can recruit typically show up on the map as side quests. However, I recommend saving before you do some recruitment side quests, because some of the dialogue choices you pick can lead to different results, including some unwanted ones. I remember one side quest early in the game, for example, where one of the folks I was trying to recruit actually died because I made the wrong dialogue choice, and the game auto-saved immediately after she died. Yeah, Sandland is pretty funny, but can get pretty dark sometimes. Now fortunately for me, I saved manually before this all happened. And Sandland has like a ton of save slots, so it actually does help to save. In addition, I also recommend talking to everyone in general, even if they don't have a side quest icon on top of their head. Sometimes you might run into someone who is the recipient of a key item that you have in your hands, allowing you to hear more of the game's story. Tip number 4, talk to every merchant that you see. Yeah, so sometimes it's easier to just ignore merchants you come across because you might think they sell the same stuff. That would actually be a mistake, as some of them actually sell blueprints, which allow you to craft new vehicle parts in the garage, for example. And when I say merchants, I'm not just talking about the merchants in the towns, but also the merchants that you see walking around in the open world. And speaking of merchants out in the open world, make sure to save every merchant you see each time you see a rescue event pop up in the map. Not only do these merchants provide rewards that add up over time, some of them can actually be recruited as citizens for Spino as well. Tip number 5, don't ignore bounties. So the first time you arrive at the Lisab Junker Market, you will be able to unlock bounties that require you to hunt a certain target. These bounties can be a great source of money, materials, and gear parts, so make sure to take advantage of them. Bounties are also repeatable, though doing so typically ends up raising your bounty target's level, which makes hunting them more difficult. One particularly easy bounty early in the game is Cave Dweller Corndo, who you can snipe to death from outside his cave while he's unable to hit you. It's like a pretty cheesy way to earn rewards. Hey, just like hamburgers, a little extra cheese can make things better. Tip number 6, explore every ruin. So as you journey into the world, you will come across ancient sites known as ruins. Make sure you explore these as they will be your first main source of ancient currency, such as ancient gold coins, ancient silver coins, and ancient copper coins. Now, ancient silver and copper coins can be used to barter for items, such as vehicle frames, for example, from the item trader, once you recruit him in Spino. Ancient gold coins can be traded with the cat merchant Lassie, meanwhile, for maps that show all chests for each region. By the way, the best way to find out all the locations for each ruin is by activating the radio towers found in every region. Tip number 7, use and level up Thief's skills. So as his name implies, the Demon Thief has some pretty sticky hands. It might as well be called Meal Ticket though, as Thief is your ticket to getting a lot of free resources. I seriously recommend unlocking all of his skills as soon as you can, even if that means putting aside the skills of your other companion, Rao, on hold first. they're the first two companions that you get. And so you can level up their skills at the same time, but they share the same points, so you'll want to prioritize the skills you want first. Now, Rao's skills are focused on assisting you in combat, which is fine, but I've never really been in a situation where I desperately needed his special set of skills in order to beat a boss. Thief's skills, on the other hand, are all focused on finding hidden items and increasing enemy drops, making them quite invaluable. He can steal from humans, monsters, and even vehicles. His item picker vacuum skill, meanwhile, can also suck up rare ores and ingots, and even ancient coins when you use it inside the ruins. The guy is truly the demon version of Santa Claus. Tip number 8, use your vehicles against tough mobs. So early in the game, you will face mobs that might be tough for Beelzebub to handle on his own. These can include like giant poisonous scorpions and other monsters. So when that happens, just jump into your tank or other vehicle to mow them down quickly. I mean, there really aren't that many places in Sandland where you can't summon your vehicles, so use that to your advantage when faced with tougher monsters or other foes. Tip number 9, don't forget to equip option mods. So as you play the game, you will find option modules that can be equipped on your vehicle, such as extra armor plating, drones, or missile pods. Some of these can be game changers, so don't forget to equip them when you get them. The missile pod, for example, can destroy several enemy tanks in one go, making an otherwise long battle over in just a few seconds. Yeah, so just make sure you equip them. Tip number 10, remember that camping heals your vehicles too. Yeah, so if your tank gets some serious damage after a fight and you don't want to use your precious items to fix it, just fast travel to a camping spot and then use that. In addition to healing Beelzebub's health, it will also fix your vehicles at the same time. This makes camping spots actually better than water stations. The only downside is that camping spots are not as plentiful as the water stations. But fortunately, fast travel is an option, although that might be a bit of an issue when you're inside a dungeon. Tip number 11, level up your vehicles and parts. It can be easy to forget this at times, but this is important to make sure that your damage and defense keeps up as you make progress in the game and fight tougher foes. Leveling up vehicles also has the added effect of allowing you to equip higher rank parts, which require a minimum vehicle level to use. I especially recommend leveling up your tank early on, as well as its parts, as the tank serves as your main vehicle during boss fights. We're almost there at the end, so tip number 12, consider using autopilot in races. So when riding a vehicle, pressing up on the D-pad allows your vehicle to move forward automatically, instead of you having to press forward manually on the analog stick. So it's not complete autopilot because you still have to steer, but the autopilot in this game is still helpful. While it's certainly convenient when traveling the world map, it can also be helpful during races, as it allows you to focus on steering, drifting, and boosting, while reducing the chances of you losing control and then hitting a wall. Or maybe I just have a skill issue. But I've usually hit my fastest times using a combination of autopilot and manual. It just kind of depends on the situation. And then last but not least, tip number 13. Don't forget to use Quick Heal. Yeah, so just like pressing up on the D-pad when inside a vehicle activates autopilot, pressing down when outside a vehicle allows Beelzebub to quickly use his water bottle to replenish any lost health. It's certainly a convenient way to heal in a pinch. Anyway, there you go, my 13 tips to help you get started in Sandland on the right note. I'm actually quite enjoying this game, even though it's not necessarily perfect. It kind of reminds me of older games from the PlayStation 2 days. Like, a mix of Sly Cooper and Mega Man Legends and the Misadventures of Trombone. And I really love those games, so especially given that we've all been waiting for Mega Man Legends for the longest time. Oh my gosh. This is like one of the closest games, I guess, to that experience in a long time, so I really quite enjoyed it, despite some of its imperfections. Yeah, so as always, if you have any thoughts or questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. Once again, this is Sabi Asobi, and thank you for watching.
俺にかかればこんなもんや。